Hi, everybody. Delman Mehta here, and thank you for joining me for part three of my 3 year anniversary special. Not really, it's a special, just sequence of videos um, that I've been doing for my fanfiction journey. I really, I'm happy. And overall, I should have maybe said this earlier. I'm happy that I got through 3 years. I really wish this last year, though, I really wish I had read more. Like, for some reason after the second year anniversary, after basically at the after that, my progress of reading these things slowed to like half speed. Basically I started putting out these videos on average, every 2 weeks instead of every week, which I was doing for the previous year, and the story rate is still there. Hopefully, as I've said it again and again, hopefully I'll be able to pick up the pace again, because I still have like 500 stories to go, and I don't want to do this for. If I can get it done in 2 years more, great. Like, it was already planned to be a 4 year project, now it's a 5 year project. But yeah, let's dive in for part three of these fics, starting with A Second Journey by Synchro X, which is Naruto crossover with Sekirei, where immortal Naruto is like basically taking a nap and sends clones to create a company in the world, and then wakes up during the time of the Sekirei plan. And this is another one where that's incomplete, doesn't get actually very far into the main plot, but I didn't really mind because Naruto's interactions with everyone is really entertaining and funny, and the focus seems to be more on the humor. Like, there is a build up for the story and stuff, but the humor is a lot. There's a lot of humor, and it's really enjoyable. That I don't mind the fact that the story doesn't get very far. I've said it before and I've said it again. Humor can make up for a lack of narrative conclusion because it humor provides its own form of catharsis and satisfaction to the reader, and there's more than enough of it here that even though the tale isn't finished, the jokes and the entertainment is still there, that I feel satisfied. Naruto plays up a bombastic persona a la Jiraiya, and his shenanigans with the various Sekirei are all really humorous, and I'd gladly come back and read the story again, which is a good indication that it's going to stay on my list. The next story is Tangled Web by Ruinous Crow, which is a Spider-Man crossover with the Avengers. And you got to remember, this was released in 2012, before Spider-Man actually became part of the MCU. So this Spider-Man and this story this is using the Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield, and it basically has the first one of those, I think, which was the only one at the time, when this started, take place a little bit before Iron Man 1, and inserts Peter into uh, you know Stark Tech, with like internship with Tony, and then his relationship with Gwen is entertaining. But again, it doesn't add up to much, as like many of these stories, it's all built off for a payoff that doesn't come. Like, it doesn't even really get through um, Iron Man 2, I don't think. And it's just mildly entertaining, but not worth revisiting, and it's going to fall off my list. Number three is an interesting case. It's called Two-Faced Riddle by Prion. And this is another Harry Potter Avengers crossover. But the interesting thing about this is that it is a sequel to a story that I have never read. And this is not in the case of that, like, oh, I just forgot about this story, and it was just or it was not the prequel, or the original story was not on my favorites list, but I did read it and I just like the sequel better. No, I've never read this original story, and I put the sequel on my favorites list for some reason. Probably because, again, at the time, like, this was like Harry Potter and Avengers, and I was loved all that shit. So I was just like, oh, put it in. It's long. It's doing. Put it in. Um, Whatever. I think the reason I didn't notice that it wasn't a standalone fic, or like that it was a sequel, is because the original story is a pure Avengers story that apparently focuses more on like Tony and Loki's relationship, whereas this one has Harry as the main protagonist, and Harry is like sucked into the MCU via Vortex and whatever, or I think he falls to the Death Veil, but like because it's a new character and Harry is not used to everything, we get all the explanation bits or everything. So it feels like it's a first story because we're getting explained everything and we're learning characters and people and introductions are happening. Whereas with most sequel stories, people just everyone was always just like, you just read the last story, so you just it's a continuation, not really like it assumes no break time between stories until they don't explain anything. Um, but anyway, how's the story actually? It's okay. It's mainly going off again by the thing that like Harry doesn't know what's going on, and so does stuff that puts him on Shield's radar, while Tony and Bruce are like friendly with him and he's engaging. Um, it's fine. The characters seem well matched to their movie counterparts, but I just wasn't too interested in reading this. I don't. It doesn't help that this story is incomplete, and I think the realizing that it was a sequel then like made me retroactively feel like I was missing a lot of stuff in my own head, not from the story itself. But that kind of soured it my note for feeling while I was reading this, and the story itself wasn't enough to get over that. Um, I'd say read the original story first. Like, go check out the author's page and find the original story. See that, and if you like that, maybe give this a look. But otherwise, it's fine. But I not. It's not going to stay on my list. Right. Next is The Life and Times by John Q. And here we have more time travel fic with like a Naruto time travel fic, but with a new protagonist. This time, Hinata is our main character, and a lot of this story like is very similar to a lot of the time loop fics or time travel. A lot of some similar time travel fics that I've read, where there's a lot of training and more time loop than time travel. Like this story is a time travel fic in an odd way. Like it's not pure time loop. It's a little interesting, but like the structure of the fic follows a lot of like time loop fics, where it's like underpowered protagonist gets stuck in a situation and then learns to. Then there's a lot of training, build up, learning new exotic skills, and that's a. And I think, but I still enjoyed this a lot, and I think the reason is it's just very very novel because of the character that was chosen as our protagonist. I don't read these fics with Hinata. I'm almost always I call me a basic bitch. Most of the time I read these stories, I like whatever the canon protagonist is to be my main character. So here, Hinata being the main character, that's already novel, interesting. But also, with her being the focus and being the main core of the loop, you get all these different interactions because she has different strengths. So she focuses on different things because of her place in the society of Naruto. She has different people she can interact with, and different conversations can happen right at the start. So that became very interesting, and also her personality grows in a different way than Naruto's does. So, and then because of the fact that it's not a pure time loop, their system of interacting is kind of interesting, where it's like whenever Hinata dies, she can go back in time. It's not set at a fixed amount. It's whenever she dies, and then if she's coherent when she dies, she can like kind of choose when she goes back. Otherwise, it's like just goes back a couple days, and so it's like inconsistent, but it allows for growth because time is still moving forward with just constant jumps back. So we still get the idea of like, okay, multiple takes at the same conversation, but at the same time seeing the other characters, some of which know about the time looping shenanigans, some don't, growing in personality, so it doesn't become stale because we're just seeing the same shit over and over again. I did enjoy this a lot. Mainly, I don't know how much of that was just the novelty of different character for me after reading so much of this, but I found this really interesting, and it's going to stay on my list. Next, we go to a Naruto crossover, this time with Sword Art Online, and this with Untold Story Swords Art Naruto by Axel Yamamoto. And this is basically SAO plus one, with Naruto acting in as just a new body for the first 5 chapters. Like the first 5 chapters is basically canon events with Naruto also being there while Kirito does stuff. It's after that where the writer starts to really focus on Naruto as the story's main character, not as Sao's main character. That's still Kirito and like Asuna, or like at least how it's being built. But Naruto is the focus of the story, and so we get to see more focus on how he deals with the other situations, how he ends up building, siphoning Kirito's harem aura and getting his own harem that he doesn't realize is his harem, and stuff like that, and getting couple of his own adventures by himself. And that's what's really entertaining, seeing his interactions and stuff like that, while also seeing bits with like the QB showing up as a like similar to Kirito's child, who I'm blanking on her name, but basically as like a code thing, and like him fighting a virus and stuff like that, and like also getting the whiskers that way, because in this thing he's just a normal rich CEO's son or something. Oh my god, I just said daughter. But the latter like 2/3 of this is very much more comedic, like harem comedy tone, which again, because it's comedy, is I enjoy a lot, not only just because it's comedy, but also that helps the fact that since it's incomplete, the comedy still provides the satisfaction needed to enjoy the story. I really did enjoy the story, and I think that if you just want some fun comedy stuff in the realm of SAO without Kirito as the main guy, but Naruto, you'll enjoy this a lot. Just ignore the last chapter, because the last chapter is meant to be a more serious tone, and it's more really a what if on if he had taken a different take with this story, and it's completely superfluous. But I enjoy this. It's going to stay on my list. All right. Next is There Was Going to Be Cake by Mark KB. And this is a My Little Pony fic that is a what if version of the episode Party of One, where Pinky's feeling unappreciated in the episode, but this time she actually leaves Ponyville due to the loss of trust in her friends. And again, as with many unfinished story-focused fics, it has a good start, but it stops before it can deliver. And there's an interesting idea with like where we see Pinky's deteriorating mental state and her growing paranoia, which would have been fun to see, like, see the real points or like how it would actually work out when the others reach her. But there's nothing here, as nothing ever develops. It's not going to stay on my list. All right, and the last one for this anniversary video, and the last of my 3 parts of my 3-year anniversary, we have Finding Out the Truth by Crazy Duck 5280. And this is a Harry Potter fic where Harry gets into a little mishap on the night of the Dementor attack and decides to leave the Wizarding World with Hermione. And this story focuses completely on the Wizarding World, basically before, like slightly before and after, and for most of it, majority after they leave. So it's so weird. The main tag character of this fic is Harry, and the things like, oh, there's hints of Harry Hermione, which when people write that in the description, hints of Harry Hermione, that just means okay, they're gonna get into a relationship, but that's not gonna be the main focus, and it might just be like throwaway lines or something like that. But it doesn't mean that like, oh, it's hinted that they're in a relationship, but they're just out of the story completely, because like this says basically nothing. Harry and Hermione are basically just incidental characters to this story. This story has 2 main characters essentially. For the first chapter, it's Tonks. Tonks is the main character because she finds Harry, figures up, and then sets up the events where he will then leave. And then for the rest of the story, which is complete, so there's nothing like, but for the rest of the story, Bill Weasley is the main character, and that's different. That's what I knew, and like, okay, that kind of kept me interested. Kind of interested me, because it definitely it delves into his backstory of when he was at Hogwarts and fleshes him out as a character, and as a person, it gives him stuff, like gives him actual character. Um, and it solves like a couple things, like the Wizarding World, like Voldemort problem gets solved, basically again like at the start, and then the structure of this is weird. Like the first chapter is takes place like basically a couple days, and then Harry and Hermione leave, and then at the start of like the second chapter, Voldemort gets solved, and the rest of it is basically the next year at Hogwarts as the Weasleys, like George, Fred, Ginny, and Ron, like are dealing with a normal year, and like everybody else, and the main focus is on like the Weasleys and a couple members of the Order, with Bill being center stage, and just how they deal, then just like kind of normal shit, and like kind of character fallout from of a normal school year. And that was really odd to me. And I know I'm kind of being like inconsistent by saying like, oh, before I just said, oh, just having Hinata in the main role made me want to keep this story because it's so novel. And this one is Bill Weasley, who he's in like 3 scenes basically in the Harry Potter books initially. Like he shows up once, and then and like Goblet of Fire, and then he shows up married to Fleur at the 7th book. Like that's it. Like, but the actual story and what's happening here just wasn't what I wanted from a fic. Like it didn't interest me, and like I don't think this was bad. It was written well, and it gave Bill character. It gave it the other stuff feel stuff. Yes, there's a little bit of bashing for a couple characters, but it's not hugely gratuitous or like super ridiculous. It's just there, and it is noticeable. But I don't think this is a bad story, just not for me. I was just not interested, not invested. I did find it a little engaging, but would I come back and reread this? Not really. So like if you want to see a Harry Potter fic with no Harry Potter, and honestly it's not really even Harry Potter. If you want to see what a normal year at Hogwarts would be like for the Weasleys and stuff with all the problems solved, give it a look, but it's not really my cup of tea, and it's going to fall off my list. And there we have it. 3 videos for my 3-year anniversary, which I did not plan. Didn't plan to be exactly 3. I planned to get as much as I could as I wanted, but like I looked ahead and the next story is a freaking 1,000,000-word fic, so I wasn't going to be able to read that in the time frame that I had for this. But status time, I've now read nice even 780 stories. So nice to end on a 80. I would have liked to have hit like 800 or something, but let's go with this. And 372 have been read. 780 read, 372 stay on my list. So there we go. Links to these are in the links to all these stories and descriptions are in the description of this video, as well as links to the playlist for this whole journey that I've been doing for 3 years, and my fanfiction.net profile if you want to see what stories are going to be coming up on my videos and as I reread them. Reread them. See, top quality. I'm so amazing with all my oh my god. I really hope this doesn't take another 3 years. Like I already slowed down because of this last year. Gonna try and keep it up. I'm trying to speed it up again. Hopefully I'll be done within 5. But thank you so much. If you've been watching or following my journey since the beginning, thank you so much for sticking around and watching these, or reading them on the forum that I posted on. And if this is your first video, thanks for stopping by and watching this. And hey, maybe check out some of the stories or check out the videos. Feel free. But thank you for being here. Thank you for being here if this is your first video or your 100th video. And I will see you all next time. Take care.